Hello there. This video is going to be a tutorial on how to make this size zipper pocket. It's great for rotary cutter. You can stick a rotary cutter in there. You can stick a pair of scissors in there. They're nice and protected. And it's simple to make. This size is made from 10-inch squares, but you could do a smaller size if you wanted to. So here I have my 10-inch squares. I've got my outside fabric, my batting, and my inside fabric for the bag. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark the outside fabric. If you're going to quilt it the way I quilted it, I did a crosshatch with a wavy line. That was a stitch I had on my machine. You can see on the inside a little better. So the marking I did was for that. You could obviously do your own thing. So to mark it, I marked the center point. You got the 5-inch mark here, and then 2.5 inches from this corner, and then 2.5 inches from that corner. So you've got 3 marks on each side. So do that on each side. Now I'm going to sew an 1/8 inch seam allowance all along the outside edge here, all the way around, to hold all the layers together. I've got my machine set up for 1/8 of an inch. So you do that on your machine, however you need to do that, and sew all the way around. Now I'm going to mark this for quilting. Now you can do this free motion. You could do what I'm going to do and just eyeball it, but I'm going to show you what you can do for those who want something to follow. I have a hair marker and I've got a ruler. I'm going to go from corner to corner first, and I'm going to drag this hair marker right along the ruler, and that leaves a nice crease that I can now follow when I'm quilting. And so now I'm going to do this on the next side, on the other diagonal. Okay, so now I've got an X to follow, and I will quilt that. So I have my machine set on a serpentine stitch, a wavy stitch like that, and it's at a 3 width and a 3 length. And I will just go ahead and start quilting and follow that crease. I'm also going to use my hands to help keep this from shifting, like you would when you're doing free motion. So now I'm going to take my ruler and my hair marker, and I'm going to make creases from these center points on each side of the block so that I'm making like a square. So I'm going to line up my ruler with those marks I made, and I'm going to run the hair marker along the ruler. So now I'm going to sew from point to point, connect the dots, and I'm going to sew in a square from side to side. I get to the mark, I'm going to pivot and follow the next crease. And if you notice, I like to put my finger down here where the next mark is, just to help me stay on track. One more. Okay, so we've got our crisscross, our X, we've got our square that we made. Now we're going to do two rectangles. We're going to do a rectangle like this, and then we're going to do a rectangle like this. So those marks we have at the 2.5 inch point on each side, we're going to start connecting those. So I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to go from this side. If you notice, I'm going from here down to here. So we're making a long skinny rectangle. Now I'm going to connect from here to here. Okay, so now I've got my rectangle. Okay, we've got our long skinny rectangle here. So now we're just going to do this in the other direction. Go ahead and mark it the same way, sew it the same way, and then you're done with the quilting. Now that I have my quilting done, we are going to take two edges of the square, the top and bottom, and do some zigzag stitching on there to finish up the edge. The other two sides will be done later. So decide what's going to be the front of your pouch and what's going to be the bottom, and go from there. So I think I want this to be the front, so this will be the top. So what I'll do is I'm going to set a zigzag stitch. I'm putting it at a 4 width and 1.1 length. You don't want a satin stitch, but you want something tight enough and wide enough to really clean up that edge. Now I'm going to do the opposite edge of what I just did. So these two edges are where we're going to attach the zipper. And so now we've got the two finished edges. If you have any thread sticking out after you've done your zigzag stitching, just go ahead and pull those out gently and then take some snips and go through here and clean that up and get those off of there. Be careful you don't cut your stitching. So we're going to put the zipper on here. This is the top edge, what's going to be the top edge, or what I'm calling the top edge. And I've got my zipper face down. So the zipper pull is face down. I've got a really long zipper here because that's what I had. You can do it, use a shorter zipper, but it's going to be easier for you if you have at least a 14-inch zipper to do this. So I've got the zipper tape lined up with the edge that we did the zigzag stitch on. I've got my zipper pull up here. I've got my zipper foot on my machine, and I've got the needle on the left side of the foot. So now I'm going to put the foot on there so that the right edge of the foot lines up with this edge of the project. You've got the needle on this side of the foot near the zipper teeth. You do not want to sew right next to the zipper teeth. You need to leave a little bit of space for that zipper pull to be able to go back and forth easily. So if this side doesn't line up exactly, that's okay. That's not as important. This is just a guide. And I'm going to just use a regular stitch and just stitch all the way down. And take that out of there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to fold this back like this. We're going to fold that seam allowance to the back and turn the zipper right side up. And I'm going to finger press this. I usually use my fingernail to give it a good press. So now we've got that zipper right side up. We're going to go right back under that zipper foot. We're not changing any settings on the zipper foot. Stay the same. So now you want the right side of the zipper foot to line up with the zipper teeth. And that is important this time. And what you want to do, what we're doing is we are sewing down this little flap right here so it just doesn't stick up. So you want your stitching to catch that. So the setting I have right here allows me to do that. So now this is top stitched. If we look on the back, it's caught the edge of that zipper tape so it stays nice and flat. So now we're going to turn this around and do the same thing this way. What we're going to do this way is we're going to line up these two edges right here. You want the zipper tape up along the edge again, and you want these two sides to match up. So I'm going to go ahead and get that ready. Okay, so I've got this lined up, ready to sew. I'm going to do it just like I did before. Same setting for the needle, the zipper foot, and I'm just going to stitch right down here. Okay, so we've got that attached. So now we're going to open the zipper all the way. And you're going to fold this back like we did on the other edge. Finger press it. Okay, I'm ready to do the top stitching now. You want to keep this side of the foot next to the zipper teeth. Make sure it doesn't go too far this way, because the whole idea is to catch near the edge of this back piece here. If you have it too far up, it might not hold it down. Okay, there it is, top stitched. You look on the back side, it's the way we wanted. It's on the lower side near the edge. So now that we have our zipper installed, we're going to close up the sides. So the first thing you want to do is take your zipper pull and pull it so it's inside the edge of the bag, about 1.5 inches or so. And then you're going to fold this so that you see about 1/4 inch of fabric right here. I'm going to take a clip. I'm not going to put it right at the edge. I'm going to put it inside a little bit. And then I'm going to take a straight pin and I'm going to put it in there. If you look, you'll see this area in here between the zipper teeth and the seam allowance. So that's where I'm putting my pin, because that's the easiest place to put it in. And while I'm doing this, I'm making sure that these edges here line up together. I'm going to put a pin on the other side of the zipper. And then when I go to sew this, I'm going to take a tool. I like to use my seam ripper and slide it in here and hold this down, and then just gently tug on this to keep it nice and flat so you don't get a pucker when you sew this. So on the other side, we're going to come over here to the other side, and what I like to do in the middle is put another clip just to help hold this so it doesn't pull against me. So I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to fold that so I got about 1/4 inch. Put a clip there. Pin that, and then on this end, you're just going to bring that other part of the zipper teeth right together. And as you do that, make sure this still lines up. Put a pin in there, and the same thing with this side. You're going to hold this down and then take your tool and very gently tug on that to make sure it's nice and flat so you don't get a pucker. Okay, so I've changed back to the walking foot on my machine, and I'm going to set this to 1/4 inch seam allowance. So when I start sewing, I'm going to sew, I'm going to go down here, I'm going to stop, I'm going to back stitch all the way back, and then I'm going to continue sewing all the way down, and then when I get here, I'm going to back stitch as well. Okay, so now I'm going to back stitch. If you go slowly over this part, it's a good idea. I saw one spot where it did skip a stitch, but if you go slow on this part, it will help it to not do that. And if it skips a stitch in there, it's not the end of the world. You're sewing over it 3 times, so it should be just fine. It just has a little, my machine has a little trouble with the thickness. And then I'm going to help this, just a little bit more insurance here. And then back stitch. And that takes care of that side. Now you want to use a pair of junk scissors, something that is not your good fabric scissors, to cut off this zipper tape. You're going to cut that off, just like that. And you're going to do the other edge the exact same way. Okay, I'm sewing the other side and I'm coming up to the zipper tape, so I just want to show you again. I'm going to sew down all the way, stop, back stitch, back up to past the zipper teeth, and then come all the way back. Okay, so now we'll trim this off with our junk scissors. And now both sides are closed. Okay, so now we're going to go back to the zigzag stitch. And we are going to stitch down both edges. You're going to start, mine has a tie-off stitch at the very beginning, so I don't have to back stitch, but if yours doesn't, you need to back stitch a couple stitches. So go forward, go back, come back, and go all the way down, and then back stitch a little bit, and be done. I have the zigzag stitch set at a 4 width and a 1.1 length. Just the same stitch that we did earlier for the other 2 sides, the exact same stitch. Okay, and same thing as before. Any loose threads, just go ahead and pull those and then trim them off to clean that up. Make sure you don't cut your threads. And do this to the other side. Okay, that side's done. Again, let's clean this up carefully. And it's done. Now we just turn it right side out. To turn this right side out, what I like to do is I like to get my thumbs down under my fingers as close as I can to that corner, and I'm going to take that corner and really try and push as much as I can with my fingernails, with my fingers, and get that corner. And then I have this tool that I like to use, and I like to go in there and push on the corner a little bit more and get it as square as I can, and that should give you a nice square corner. All right, let me just turn out the rest of these, and then our bag will be done. So again, I am getting in there and pushing that as much as I can. I'm going to take my tool and push it a little bit more. If you see any stray threads, there's a tiny little thread right there. Just take your little snips and cut it off. I'm pushing on that seam allowance because it's a little, it's easy to push on because it's got so much stitching on it, and it's a little stiff, so that helps me get this out. There's that corner. And one last corner. When you do this one, be careful you don't pull on here and rip those threads. So just be careful of that. That can happen if you're not careful. So taking that, pushing on that seam allowance to get that corner in there. Okay, here's a stray thread. Oops, that one came loose, no problem. Okay, so when you zip this closed, take this and just hand press it down so that top edge lays nice and flat. And there you go. You got yourself a nice little rotary cutter scissors case.